Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this Fit Tech Tips presentation. Our featured speaker today is Tyler Klipchak, a Client Services Manager here at Fit. Tyler actively contributes to our Education and Training Committee, and he's here to share valuable tips and tricks aimed at enhancing your experience using Microsoft SharePoint. A recording of today's session will be sent to you separately within the next week, so keep an eye out for that in your inbox. In the chat, I'll share a link to a brief survey. Kindly take a moment to complete that before concluding today's session. Additionally, we've set aside time for questions and answers at the end, but feel free to drop any questions you might have in the chat throughout the presentation, and we'll address them to the best of our ability. And with that, I will hand things over to Tyler.
And thank you very much, Mike. Hello, everyone. As Mike said, my name is Tyler Klipchak. I am a Client Service Manager here with Fit, and I am here today to talk to you all about Microsoft SharePoint and some tips and tricks that you can use as a SharePoint user to get the most out of the software. To start off with, just a general overview of what is SharePoint. Microsoft SharePoint is a software provided by Microsoft. It is their answer to a company intranet. It is completely hosted online meant as a replacement for traditional file servers. So all of the different data, the files that your company might need to access could be uploaded to a secure location controlled by Microsoft. And then from there, the software can be built out to your organization's specifications, as well as permissions on who is able to access what, all being controlled seamlessly by your organization. I mentioned that SharePoint is highly customizable, and we will look at the end of today's presentation at some of what SharePoint can look like, but some things do remain universal, and as far as tips and tricks are concerned, that's where we want to focus. So to start off, we are currently looking at the office.com home screen. When you log in to office.com with your Microsoft credentials, this is where you end up, and it is your base of operations. From here, to get to SharePoint, we would click on these 9 dots right here to get our application launcher, and click on the SharePoint button here. And when we do, it will open this new tab. This is your personal portal into SharePoint. So everything you're seeing here is going to be based on your account's activity, the sites that you've decided to follow by clicking this star or clicking the star next to on the site itself. I'll show a little bit later. The places you've recently been, the places that you frequently go to. This is also where I am going to highlight our first tip for using SharePoint, which is this search bar right here. Regardless of where documents are stored within SharePoint, assuming your account has access to them, you will be able to find them through this bar. Even if all you have is a keyword, so in this case, we're in a training, I'm going to use the word train as my keyword. And as you can see, we have this listing of Microsoft's best guesses at what I might want to see. However, what do we do when, okay, none of these are actually what I'm looking for? Your search can get more powerful when you click on this magnifying glass. That magnifying glass would take us to this next tab. Oh, sorry, the following tab. The actual search screen itself. And here we have quite a few more options on how we can pare down that search to find what we're looking for. You can see very up at the top the main categories it wants to search into. I know I'm looking for a file. I know I'm looking for a specific SharePoint site. I know I'm looking for a specific person that might be listed in SharePoint. Typically, if someone is a part of your organization, you would be able to find them through this tab. Going down to the next filters down below, If you have any idea when the file was last modified, you can maybe search for it by date. Or one that I find most useful is the file type filter. Typically, if you're searching for a file, you generally one of the program that file is going to open in, whether that be PowerPoint, Word, Excel. We click one, we click apply, and now we have access to all of these, specifically Excel documents. So if I know what I'm looking for was in a spreadsheet, I've now sorted out all of that information that I didn't need. Moving on from the search bar, so we are going to jump back to our main screen for a minute. So again, we're back at our personal SharePoint portal. SharePoint's highly customizable, but at some point you will get into document libraries. Document libraries are where SharePoint actually stores your files. In this case, we've set up this demo subsite for today's training. And so this is what a document library looks like. If you've ever opened the File Explorer on your PC, it looks pretty similar. We have a list of folders, we have a list of files. It gives us some additional information that we might not have from other places, such as when these files were last modified, who modified them, so on and so forth. But one of the greatest benefits of having files within SharePoint is that these files are live, meaning that we can have multiple users within our organization accessing and working on these files in real time. In order to demonstrate that, I am going to open this Tech Tips SharePoint document. And we can see as soon as I clicked on the file, it did open in the associated web application, assuming there is one. In this case, it was Microsoft Word. And for Word and all other Microsoft applications, Excel, PowerPoint, we will be able to see I'm currently signed in as the Fit Trainer. Right here, I can see that Mike Reffert also has this document open. And if I look in the document itself, I can see where Mike Reffert's cursor is. Mike Reffert just typed teamwork, but if he wants to tab down and type some other word, you can see the edits that someone is making to your document in real time. So this allows for collaboration. If you have 5 people that need to fill in information within a spreadsheet, rather than I send it to person A, who sends it to person B, who sends it to person C, we always have to question, has everyone gotten it? Who has the most recent up-to-date version? Now, instead, I can create this link, send it out to those 5 people. We can collaborate in real time. If I don't necessarily have an edit to make, but I want to comment on something, all Microsoft documents also have this comment section right here. So we could have conversations within the document itself. And beyond that, by clicking here on File, my apologies, wrong point. We actually have to go back out to do this next portion I was going to say. Back within the file library, so in that same example, 5 people are working on this document. If I'm the one managing that project, I can click these 3 ellipses, scroll down to version history, and I can actually get a record of who has modified this file and when. And in addition to that, by clicking on one of these, I can view that version of the file or restore it to be the new version. Please note that version history within SharePoint can be locked down on an organizational level, and some organizations do choose to do so just so that any revisions have to go through the IT team, just for security purposes to make sure that things aren't being revised when they shouldn't be. So in the event you click on version history and it tells you something went wrong, most likely you don't have the permissions to restore something, but if you talk to your IT team, they might be able to help you out. One other note about the ellipses here is that this does give a list of many different shortcuts of how to manipulate files within SharePoint. This could be anything from opening the file in the different ways you might have, sharing the file to other users that already have access. So if you just wanted to send a quick link to someone so they have an immediate shortcut, so on and so forth. Finally, for today, just want to show a quick tip. Sometimes you have a specific document that's stored in SharePoint that you need to access all the time. It would be very convenient for you to put a shortcut to that on your desktop. Here is how you can do so. Simply from your desktop itself. Actually, let me share a different screen. Taking off my screen share for just a moment. There we are. Simply from your desktop, right-click, New, Shortcut. Now we go back to, let's say that the Tech Tips document was the document that I wanted a desktop link to. All I have to do is copy this, paste. By the way, this same trick will work for any website that you want a shortcut to on your desktop. Anything that you have to log into may require you to log in again when you go there. So anything with a login service, the link might not work properly. But from here, we take that link, paste it in, name it whatever we want. And so we can always jump right back to whatever document it was that we need to access to all the time. Breaking out now and moving away from tips and tricks, moving to talking about SharePoint as a whole, specifically the customization aspects. I mentioned at the beginning that SharePoint is highly customizable for organizations, and that's why I wanted to focus on the universal bits. That is very true, and Microsoft does offer via their Microsoft Lookbook several examples of what SharePoint could look like for your organization. A few that I want to pull up and share here today. Number one, this is an example of a company homepage, a place that an executive team of a company might be able can post stories and updates for their staff. Here we see things like these tiles that allow for different quick links, embedded videos, as well as recent communications and highlighted news articles, leadership event calendars. And so really everything that an executive team might want to share out to their staff. In addition to that, it highlights that at the top bar here, this is a very common feature of SharePoint, wherein this would be how we get access to those different document libraries that we talked about before. In addition to broad scale communications, executives to all staff, we can also look at using SharePoint on a department level. So here we have an example, human resources department. So this might be, again, we have things like news articles and calendars, but here we also have links to Power BI and Power Automate, wherein we could show things like quick financial status reports or any kind of data the company might want to share. quick links to things like benefits enrollment, employee handbooks, work-life balance resources, the different types of information that an HR team might want to be able to say, hey, here's a quick link, go to our homepage, and you can access everything you need. Finally, not only does SharePoint work for corporate settings, but we also work, SharePoint is used in nonprofit for things like schools. Here we have an example of a staff homepage for a school. So we can see we have access to the Microsoft Educator Center, HR resources, different policies and procedures, countdowns to certain conferences, quick links to documents. Again, the goal here is Microsoft wants to give you a place where to act as a landing page for your team, organization, staff, and it wants to give you the ability to control all of that via your own security policies. If your organization does not currently have SharePoint and it is something that you, sorry. Fit does create custom SharePoint buildouts and other SharePoint projects with our data services team. If there's something that you think could help your organization, please talk to your client service manager if you're already a Fit client or a decision maker on your team. If you aren't a client of ours, you can reach out to us via the contact form on our website, and we will also provide a link to that in the meeting chat today. That is here we can now move to Q&A. So Mike, do we have any questions coming in the chat so far?
We do. That was great, Tyler. Thank you. It looks like you answered a couple along the way, which is great. It looks like the first one that we can touch on is, can I see where a document lives from within the document?
Got it. Yes. Okay, so if I'm understanding the user correctly, the question is, as far as where does a document live, we're talking about where is it actually stored? You know, when I go to SharePoint, where do I have to navigate? And from within the document, I'm assuming that means within the web app because that's what I showed. In order to do so, all we have to do is click on this bar right here. Not only does this give us the ability to edit the name of the document as well as another quick access to the version history, but under location, we can just click Document Library and it pops us out to wherever that SharePoint, where that file lives. Please note, it only says Document Library in this case because this is a generic test. When this is custom built for an organization, it would say whatever naming structure they would want it.
Thank you. The next question we have here is there a way to restore documents?
So restore in this case could mean a couple of different things. As far as restoring documents to previous versions, that would be done via the version history that we showed before. So from the document library, we click the ellipsis, version history. Bad example because that one only has one version. So let's go to this one instead. And then in order to restore it, I would say just click this version 3, click restore. It'll confirm you're about to replace the current version. Are you sure? But when we click yes, it would appear the Fit Trainer account does not actually have access to restore something. But regardless, in the event that that restoration had been successful, what we would see instead here would be a 6.0 with today's modified date.
Great,
if
thank you for that.
instead what the person is referring to is restoring a document that has been deleted, that would need to go through your IT team. There are recycle bins and Microsoft does maintain documents for limited times after deletion based on different organizational policies. That is definitely going to be case by case for organizations, depending on their backups.
Thank you for that. While I'm looking at the other questions, someone asked if you could review how to find where a document lives again. It didn't look like they were able to see that on their end, so if you don't want to touch on that real quick again.
Yeah, sure. So reviewing where a document lives. So assuming the document does live in SharePoint, when you have the document open in the web browser, right here, the name of the document should be shared right next to the search bar with a little drop-down arrow. Location should be listed right under file name. And mine says demo subsite document library because this was set up as a test. However, yours will say whatever the actual location is, or should say whatever the actual location is. In order to get to where the document currently lives, we just want to click on the hyperlinked document library here, which brings me out to wherever that document happens to live. A couple things to note. Number one, the process is different within the desktop version of Microsoft Word. That is outside of the scope of today's training, so just note that today's training will only work within the web version. And then also note to be sure to click on the hyperlink and not on this move this file to a new folder button, because that is a common mistake to accidentally click that instead.
All right, great. It looks like the rest of the questions I'll be able to answer in the chat. Really appreciate your help there, Tyler. I'm going to take things back over here.
Excellent. In that case, I will just say thank you everyone very much for your attendance, and I'll turn it back over to Mike to close us out.
Awesome. Thanks again, Tyler. On behalf of Fit Technologies, thank you for joining us today. As a reminder, please take a moment to fill out the survey in the Q&A. We love hearing your feedback. We appreciate your time, participation, and partnership. Take care.